Day 5 of Brown's training camp didn't feel like a practice. It felt like a rebellion, not one with shouting or chaos, but the quiet, surgical kind. The kind where every pass feels like a protest. Every read, every check down, every touchdown is a subtle mic drop from a rookie who's done waiting for permission. Shedeur Sanders didn't storm into camp expecting a coronation. He knew the politics. 5th round pick. No matter how gaudy the college stats or flashy the highlight reels, gets the slow lane. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Managers catching your passes, not starting receivers. You shake the hands of your offensive lineman second, not first. You speak when spoken to. That's how the hierarchy works. But Shedeur's throwing schedule has turned into a courtroom argument, and the field is his cross-examination. On day 5, he wasn't just good, he was undeniable. Every snap felt like a challenge to the narrative being pushed around him. A precise bullet on a post route here, a feathered sideline ball there, a perfectly placed back shoulder fade that left even the cornerback nodding in approval. 9 for 9, 2 touchdowns, 0 doubt, and still no first-team reps. Now, let's be clear. Shedeur hasn't mocked the coaching staff with words. There's been no explosive soundbite, no tantrum, no finger-pointing. His version of mocking is surgical. He lets his play drip with irony. He doesn't yell, "Why am I not getting first-team snaps?" He just looks Stefanski in the eye after threading a 30-yard rope between 2 defenders and jogs off with a grin. That's the protest. That's the quiet roast. And it's working. Everyone on that practice field knows what they saw. There's no hiding from it anymore. The whispers from coaches have started to change. Second-team offensive linemen are nodding their heads with each completion. Defensive starters, watching from the sideline, are starting to talk about what it'd be like to go against him instead of Gabriel. But Kevin Stefanski, he's holding firm. Dylan Gabriel continues to run with the ones, delivering a safe, system-compliant performance. Nothing disastrous. Nothing dynamic. And that's part of the issue. This isn't a scandal yet, but it's brewing. It's the kind of internal tension that can split a locker room quietly before it ever shows up in a box score. The guys on the field every day, they know. The ones catching Shedeur's spirals in full stride, they know. There's a quarterback competition happening in real time, but only one side seems interested in acknowledging it. And that's where this gets complicated. From the outside, it's easy to say, start the guy who's performing. But NFL organizations don't always work that way. Draft capital matters. Gabriel was a 3rd-round pick. The team's already sunk resources into his development. He fits the mold, says the right things, operates the offense like a well-oiled robot. The problem is, football isn't robotic. It's chaotic. It demands improvisation. And that's where Shedeur shines. Gabriel is reading from a script. Shedeur is riffing jazz, and the notes are beautiful. But Stefanski comes from the Mike Zimmer coaching tree. That means control. It means structure. It means comfort. A rookie QB slinging around with style and confidence doesn't always scream safe pick to that kind of mind. Stefanski's approach seems driven by a belief that quarterbacks need to be groomed, contained, and carefully unleashed, which is understandable, but also deeply flawed. Because sometimes a player arrives who doesn't need to be nurtured through baby steps. He needs the keys and an open road. You can't treat a lion like a kitten just because he was born in April. Shedeur Sanders is that lion, and he's getting tired of waiting for someone to notice. The mood after day 5 was unmistakable. There was no open mutiny, no shouting in the locker room, but the body language of players and staff told a different story. Some eyes wandered toward Shedeur when Gabriel overthrew a wide-open receiver during the last first-team drill. A few defensive backs smirked knowingly. One assistant coach could be seen shaking his head during warm-ups, almost as if he knew what was coming. Meanwhile, Sanders, he was locked in. No gloating, no pouting, just reps, clean, efficient, electric reps. But the message he's sending, intentional or not, is crystal clear. If Stefanski wants to bury him behind a depth chart, he'll just force his way to the top with throws no one else on the roster can make. And that's where things start getting really uncomfortable for the coaching staff, because this is no longer just about quarterback competition. This is about credibility. How long can you deny what's happening in front of your eyes before the players stop believing in the fairness of the process? How long before fans start chanting Sanders' name during preseason games? How long before every football show on every sports network starts asking why the most talented quarterback in Cleveland is playing second string? There's no ducking it. The media has taken notice. National analysts are calling out the double standard. Former players are weighing in, subtly suggesting that Sanders has it, and that it deserves a Real shot. And don't think for a second the Browns' ownership group hasn't seen the marketing value. Sanders is a walking headline, a dual-threat quarterback with charisma, pedigree, and social media presence that rivals NFL veterans. Starting him would instantly light up ticket sales, national media attention, and jersey numbers. That kind of buzz matters to ownership. So the pressure is rising from the field, from the fans, from the top floor. The only place it hasn't come from yet is Stefanski himself, which makes you wonder, how long can he hold out? And more importantly, why would he? The idea that Shedeur needs more time might have made sense on paper a few weeks ago. But day 5 wasn't just a good day. It was a kind of performance that rewrites expectations. 9 for 9 against a defense that's not exactly full of pushovers. Touchdown throws that required perfect timing, tight windows, and ice-cold nerves. He didn't just manage the second team. He elevated them. And the real kicker? He made it look easy. This is where great coaches separate from stubborn ones. Can Stefanski admit that the rookie might be ready earlier than expected? Or will he dig in, forcing Shedeur to sit simply because he wasn't supposed to rise as fast? The irony, of course, is that Stefanski wants a win. He's not trying to tank the season or sabotage a rising star, but he's caught in a philosophical trap. Play the safe choice or roll with the raw talent. Stick to the plan or follow the moment. Shedeur is not asking for favoritism. He's not pulling rank based on his name, his lineage, or his Instagram following. He's just showing up every day, outperforming expectations, and daring the coaching staff to ignore it. If they keep ignoring it, it'll backfire, not just because they might lose games, but because they'll lose the locker room's faith in fair competition. They'll lose the respect of fans who can clearly see who the best quarterback in camp has been. And they might lose Shedeur himself, not to a trade or tantrum, but to frustration, to silence, to the feeling of being undervalued, no matter how well you perform. And that a risk no team, especially not the Cleveland Browns, can afford. Day 5 wasn't just a good day for Shedeur Sanders. It was a warning shot. The clock is ticking. By day 6 of Browns training camp, the tension in Berea had crystallized into something tangible. It wasn't just media buzz or locker room whispers anymore. It was written all over players' faces, heard in the subtle shifts of tone from assistant coaches, and felt in the growing presence of national cameras parked just beyond the sideline fences. It was no longer a question of if Shedeur Sanders would get a real shot. The question had become, what excuse would the coaching staff use not to give it to him? Every throw Sanders made during warm-ups was now under the microscope. Not just from journalists or fans, but from his own teammates. Offensive players began drifting toward his huddle instead of Gabriel's. Even some fringe receivers, who previously ran routes like ghosts and drills, were now snapping out of their breaks with energy, looking to make plays. They knew Sanders could actually get them the ball. Clean, fast, on time. There was something magnetic about the way he moved now. Not flashy, not loud, but smooth, efficient, confident. His footwork was crisp. His cadence was commanding. He looked like someone who knew he wasn't just competing. He was quietly taking over. And yet, Stefanski kept trotting Dillon Gabriel out with the ones. Gabriel, to his credit, wasn't melting down. He was doing everything right, technically speaking, playing within the system, limiting turnovers. But everything about his play felt conservative, dull, like a substitute teacher slowly reading from a lesson plan, while the student stared out the window at the real show happening outside. The locker room knew it. You could see it in post-practice interactions. When Sanders walked off the field, guys came over to dap him up. When Gabriel walked off, it was polite nods and quick exits. These are subtle signals, but in the NFL, they mean everything. Players gravitate toward leadership. And right now, they were circling Sanders like gravity. Still, Stefanski didn't budge. When asked by reporters about Sanders' recent performances, the head coach gave the classic, "We're evaluating everyone. We like what Shedeur is doing, but we're sticking with our progression plan answer." He said it with a straight face, but even his body language hinted at discomfort. You don't sit on a talent surge like this without feeling the heat, especially when every camera lens is aimed at the one guy not getting a fair shot. The politics of quarterback development in the NFL are brutal. Once a coach commits to a plan, especially one backed by a general manager who spent a third-round pick on a quarterback, changing course too early can feel like admitting a mistake. It's not just a football decision. It's about optics, pride, and job security. But Stefanski's refusal to adjust is making this a bigger story than it needs to be. By clinging to the process, he's unintentionally fueling a narrative that he may soon lose control of. Behind closed doors, sources close to the organization say the tension between the coaching staff and front office is reaching a breaking point. The marketing team is already dreaming up Shedeur-centric campaigns. Local TV segments are running more Sanders footage than anything else. The ownership sees jersey sales ticking up. The GM is stuck in the middle, trying to protect the Gabriel pick while also recognizing what's happening on the field. It's a mess. But Shedeur, he's not flinching. He's meeting with position coaches after practice, staying late for film sessions, running voluntary 7-on-7 walk-throughs with second and third-string receivers. Every move he makes feels strategic, intentional. He knows the spotlight is on him, and instead of shrinking under it, he's using it as fuel. And that's the thing the old-school NFL minds don't seem to get. Shedeur Sanders wasn't built in a vacuum. He didn't come from some sleepy college program with no cameras. He grew up under the lights, literal and metaphorical. He was forged in the chaos of Deion Sanders' Colorado circus, where every game was a media event, and every play was a moment waiting to go viral. He's not just user pressure. He thrives in it. By day 7, with Gabriel's reps looking more and more pedestrian, the calls from the locker room started to grow louder, not publicly, but in conversations behind closed doors between position groups during meals. Guys want to see Shedeur get a fair shot with the starters, not because they didn't like Gabriel, not because they didn't respect the process, but because they knew what they were seeing. One quarterback playing not to lose, and another playing to win. And winning is contagious. That day, during red zone drills, Sanders once again put on a clinic. His timing with a backup tight end, who's been buried on the roster for 3 years, was so on point left defenders staring at each other in confusion. He diagnosed a disguised blitz before the snap, audibled into a slant fade combo, and hit the wideout perfectly in stride for a score. No hesitation. No panic. Just poise and precision. Gabriel followed that series with a delay of game penalty and a check down on 3rd and goal. At this point, the numbers are starting to build a case that even the coaching staff can't ignore. Sanders is completing nearly 80% of his camp throws, with the lowest interception rate among all quarterbacks on the roster. His red zone efficiency is off the charts. He's generating chemistry with teammates who hadn't caught meaningful passes in years. And perhaps most importantly, he's energizing a fan base that's been desperate for something, anything, to believe in. Because let's be honest, Browns fans have seen this movie before. Veteran placeholders, overhyped mid-round picks, slow-motion train wrecks disguised as quarterback battles. But Shedeur feels different. Not because of hype, but because of hope. Tangible, visible hope. By day 8, social media had turned into a referendum on Stefanski's quarterback handling. Analysts, former players, even rival fans were starting to question why the most electric player in Brown's camp was still running with the twos. Some speculated the team was trying to hide Shedeur to protect a trade value scenario. Others suggested the staff feared handing the keys to a rookie this soon. But most just said what everyone else was thinking. The Browns were wasting time. And in the NFL, Time is everything. This isn't college. You don't get 3 years to figure it out. Windows close quickly. Veteran contracts expire. Defensive stars get tired of carrying the load. Fans get cynical. If you've got the guy, you play the guy. You don't need a press conference. You don't need a roadmap. You just put him in the huddle and let him cook. And Shedeur is ready to cook. Whether Stefanski is ready to let go of the spatula is a different story. But the reality is catching up fast. The Browns have a quarterback who's doing everything right, saying all the right things, and lighting up practice like a starter. And with every rep he's denied, the tension grows sharper. The pressure isn't going anywhere. The fans want it. The team senses it. The analysts are circling. Ownership smells opportunity. Even the opposing teams in preseason are preparing for it. The only person who hasn't made a move yet is the head coach. But soon, Evie won't have a choice. Shedeur Sanders didn't just arrive at Browns camp to be developed. He arrived to compete. And day by day, throw by throw, he's forcing the NFL to reckon with a rookie who refuses to stay in the box they built for him. By the time day 9 rolled around, you could cut the tension in Berea with a butter knife. The media tent was fuller than it had been all offseason, with local reporters now flanked by national names, NFL Network, ESPN. Even the New York Times had someone poking around. You'd think this was a playoff run. But no, it was a rookie quarterback with a hot hand, and a team terrified of what giving him the keys might mean. Shedeur Sanders was still not officially the starter, but you wouldn't know it by watching practice. The second-team offense was running with more rhythm, more aggression, and frankly, more results than the starters. Even defenders were starting to joke that the hardest throws to cover weren't coming from Dylan Gabriel or Kenny Pickett. They were coming from number 14. One particular session sealed it. The Browns were running a 2-minute drill simulation. Gabriel had just gone 2-for-5, missing a wide-open crossing route on third down, and getting sacked on a rollout the coaches had drilled into the ground all week. Sanders took over with the second unit. 65 yards to go, 1:45 on the clock, no timeouts. First play? A back shoulder laser to a practice squad receiver along the sideline. Second play? A perfectly timed out route to the tight end. Then a read option keeper that caught the entire defense flat-footed. He moved the offense like a 10-year vet, calling out protections, directing traffic, and snapping off quick decisions that left defenders shaking their heads. With 7 seconds left on the clock, he dropped back, pump fake, and fired a 22-yard dart into the corner of the end zone. Touchdown. Even the defense cheered. It was the kind of moment that transcends reps, politics, and draft slots. And it forced the coaching staff into a closed-door meeting that night. Stefanski, the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, GM Andrew Berry, and even ownership had to face it. This wasn't a cute story anymore. This was a performance issue. And Shedeur was performing. Of course, the situation wasn't that simple. Dylan Gabriel had been promised a legitimate shot when he was drafted in the 3rd round. He was a safe, efficient passer, if unremarkable, who understood the playbook and knew how to manage a huddle. But that's just it. He managed games. Shedeur changed them. Still, shifting reps meant shifting the narrative. It meant admitting that your QB1 plan, months in the making, might have been wrong. It meant potentially bruising egos, navigating locker room hierarchies, and most of all, dealing with the massive spotlight that comes with crowning a player like Sanders. Because Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a brand, a movement, a walking headline with a famous last name and a target on his back. If you name him the starter, the scrutiny skyrockets. If he fails, the backlash comes twice as hard. Stefanski knew that. Everyone did. But the flip side was even riskier. What if he succeeded for someone else? Other teams were already sniffing around. You think the Browns' owner phones ringing from quarterback-needy GMs wondering, why is Shedeur still on the bench? The idea that Cleveland might stash him on the depth chart until November made no sense to anyone watching this unfold. Not in today's NFL. Not with rookie windows, salary cap gymnastics, and impatient owners. Day 10, and Shedeur finally got the call. You're getting starter reps in the next session. No cameras, no announcement, just a quiet moment in the quarterback room with a nod from the coach. When he stepped into the huddle with the first-team offense for the first time, you could feel the shift. The veteran linemen stood a little straighter. The receivers perked up. It wasn't disrespect toward Gabriel or Pickett. It was gravity pulling toward the guy who'd earned it. And Shedeur, he didn't flinch. He opened the series with a hard count that drew a veteran edge rusher offside. Next play, he checked into a quick screen against press coverage, 8-yard gain. Then a play-action deep shot to Amari Cooper that dropped in like a meteor from the clouds. It was effortless. By the end of the session, he had led 2 scoring drives and built more chemistry in 20 minutes than some quarterbacks build in 2 months. The coaches didn't say much afterward. Stefanski gave his usual, "We're still evaluating everything" speech. But privately, the message was clear. The Sanders era had begun, whether they were ready or not. Back in the locker room, Sanders kept it businesslike. He shook hands with defensive players, thanked his O-line, then sat down to review film with the backup receivers. No dramatic celebration, no chest pounding, just headphones on and focus dialed in. That's been the most impressive part of his rise. Not just the physical tools, but the way he's carrying the weight, the media frenzy, the locker room politics, the expectations that come with being that guy. He's handled it all like a seasoned pro. And now, the stakes are higher than ever. The Browns' first preseason game looms, and all indications point to Sanders getting the start. It's not confirmed, but teammates are talking. Coordinators are adjusting packages. The equipment staff even ordered an extra run of number 14 jerseys. It's happening. The NFL is watching. And if Sanders balls out in that game, the floodgates open. You can't unsee greatness once it's on tape. You can't walk it back. That's how legends start. Not with coronations, but with quiet moments that explode under the lights. The Browns have a chance to get it right, to trust what they're seeing, to make a bold move in a league that rewards risk when it's backed by performance. Of course, there's still pitfalls. If Sanders struggles, critics will call it a rush job. If the offense sputters, fingers will point. And if Gabriel gets traded or benched, that's a whole new media circus. But that's the cost of greatness. That's the tax you pay for rolling with a quarterback who doesn't just play the game, he reshapes it. Sanders isn't just chasing a starting job anymore. He's chasing legacy. And if you think that's too big a goal for a rookie quarterback from Colorado, then you haven't been watching. He's already made believers out of his teammates. Next stop, the league.